how do you feel about dating a woman with a child?
Oh no. I don't think I don't think that's a good idea. Not because there's something wrong with the mother, like intrinsic, like the value of the person may not lesser, but the responsibility of the man increases to a point where I don't even know if it's worth taking care of. Like um the first thing that most men talk about, especially when having to be a stepfather, is where's my jurisdiction range when it comes to disciplinary things, right? That doesn't mean beating your child, right? Disciplinary can mean anything. But the problem with being in a quote unquote authoritative figure with no power is you look weak and no man wants to be there. So there's gonna be moments when the kid is matriculating where they need some guidance. Maybe they do need a whooping. But if I can't handle it the way I think is best fit based off of my experience, I don't want to be in that situation. Not
Okay,
only
so
that,
let's.
I
Sorry.
mean, you got a whole dad. Like he got a whole father. The father's it makes relationships, which is already complicated, twice as complicated. I'd much rather avoid that instead of try to, I don't know, figure that all out.
Chiki, what if you're with a woman who says, you know what, since you're the guy in my life, let's just pretend you were dating one, you're allowed to discipline my child if necessary. Would that
Um,
change things or you still like not with it?
it would change things, but then it would still depend on other factors, right? Like
Okay.
there's it's literally a I don't think people realize how much of a lifestyle change that a man has to make if he don't have kids. Like if he doesn't have kids, now he's got to adapt to not only a woman's environment with her raising a child, and if the father's not involved or is involved, you're combating two different cultures and household teachings. Like there's a lot of different things that affect the child psychologically that as a man is putting a lot of burden on you. And the question becomes, why am I doing this? What is the purpose of me doing this? And is it worth it? And that's not to say the woman herself isn't worth it, but is this relationship and this extra responsibility worth the task of trying to figure all of this out? In most cases, I've from what I've seen and can identify, it's not, because they don't tend to last due to difference of opinion. And she though he talked to her son wrong because the son was acting bad. It's just, or hey, look, I'm trying to teach him this thing, but we don't agree on this, so I don't want you teaching. And it's already complicated enough, right? People
Yeah.
break up because they can't even agree on what they like, or what ideology they want to believe in. Why am I adding a child to that situation to make it even more complicated?
Yeah. So you brought up the key part of it, which is respect, right? So it's not even so much like I got to think about it right now. I have two kids, and if I really, you know, probably somebody from my past or somebody that I felt like I knew well enough, and she had a kid or two, right? And I could get past it. There's still that issue of respect. And like I said, I was raised traditionally. And if I'm gonna take on the stepfather role, it's almost gonna be in like the terms of like the kinsman redeemer, right? Where you're just coming to take over a man's role who's not doing well or doesn't want to be there. And as such, the woman needs to respect that basically this is the children's new father. The term stepfather is a technical term. This is the children's new father. So modern women do not have that type of respect for stepfathers. I don't believe so, generally. If you're not going to let a man discipline, and I mean strongly discipline your child against your advice, then he has no business marrying you. Because think about it this way: as women, you'll say, well, I don't agree with the type of discipline he gives. Well, you shouldn't have married him. If you can't trust his masculine instincts for discipline, then you should not have married him. My children are 3 and 5 years old. If my wife tells me I'm hurting my children mentally and I'm doing it in a pattern, she's more of the nurturer, and I will never overrule her on things that have to do with her expertise. But alternatively, she can never overrule me on discipline. That is my natural God-given gift and talent. It's my one of my only jobs here. Okay. So If you're not going to let a stepfather do that, you got no business marrying him. And I don't think the modern woman is keen on that at all.
Well, I was gonna say I actually kind of agree with what you were saying, Sugar Mike, in terms of I think well
Yeah.
it is all gonna depend on I think one if the other father is involved. If because I've been in a situation like my I'm a well, I hate saying stepmom because I don't feel like that, but for technically I am. Um, but when my husband and I, first got together, after we got together, his baby's mother had moved on and was in another relationship. But him being the dad, he he took initiative. I need to meet who you're gonna have around my kid. You know what I'm saying? And they had a conversation, like just a man-to-man conversation about, him, giving that respect, like saying, listen, I know you're gonna be around my daughter, and I will hope that you would be respectful, and and whatever that conversation was like, a man-to-man conversation in the sense of letting the other guy know that I am an involved dad. There's certain things that I am instilling in my child that I expect you, since you're with my baby's mom, to reinforce, right? If you're going to be there. So
Hmm.
it wasn't like kind of like where they bumped heads, because it was just a matter of like making sure that you're reinforcing, her being respectful, being like those kind of things, just things that you would want to have a well-behaved kid. But if there were any major issues, the mom would contact, the biological father, um, and to be honest, he also didn't have an issue with the other father disciplining his kid, but because he was constantly involved, I don't think that they ever initially bumped heads. Same thing with me in the discipline. He gave me free reign to discipline, his daughter, but I felt very uncomfortable. Like I'm gonna leave that on you. You know what I'm saying? I'll be the huggy, kissy, let me kiss your boo boo kind of thing. But when it comes to that, I just felt very uncomfortable, any kind of physical discipline. I would, do punishment and stuff like that. So I really think it has a lot to do with how the mom has set up the situation between the both dads, if the biological dad is involved versus the dad not being involved.
You see, I guess you can already identify the dynamic between the stepmom and the stepfather, so diametrically opposed, right? Like as a stepfather, your jurisdictions is based on another man, potentially, right? Because that's not always the case, but potentially in most cases it is. And if you're a stepmother, your jurisdiction is based on the biological father, which gives you a more leeway and more wiggle room to fulfill a role that you can fulfill anyway because it's natural to you,
Mhm.
right? Being in an unnatural position as a man is never going to be comfortable or enticing. Like not being able to be a man and instill the things that made you a man to another child that you will see as your child, or the woman is hoping you'll see as your child as well, it's crippling. Like it just doesn't make logical sense. So if a person decides to do it, I'm in my head, I think they're doing it out of the love for the woman, or the the love. It's not a logical decision to me, right? To me, the logical decision is make your own child. Then you have no blockages or potential blockages. You have free reign. It's your child.
Yeah, I'll let somebody else go. I'm sorry, because I was about to say something else.
No, I was gonna say I like everybody's perspective. And hearing from the men, like I never viewed it that way. Um, but I get what you're saying, and I guess like what Miss Taken was saying. Like, I think there's a lot of things that play into effect. Like, is the father involved? Is he not? And I guess for me, like how I think of it is like if I'm with someone, then I'm going to give you the jurisdiction to discipline my child because it's now our child. We're raising them together. So I wouldn't have an issue with it. I didn't know that there was some women who are like, no, don't discipline my kid, you know what I mean? And you're living under the same household. I feel like, you know,